Warning: this video contains content that may disturb you and challenge your perception of reality. Ensure you're in a safe space before you continue. Hello, and welcome to Charlie Ghostlight. I'm Charlie. Real people, real horror, a vanishing in paradise, a deadly exorcism, and a haunted tour gone wrong. What really happened? Who's hiding the truth? And why? Story 1. Death on the Annabelle doll. It was supposed to be a highlight of the summer. The Devils on the Run Haunted Tour, an eerie roadshow featuring the allegedly possessed Annabelle doll, making its stop in Gettysburg, one of America's most haunted towns. Many had come for chills, but no one expected it to become a real-world horror scene. Dan Rivera, 54, led the tour. A respected paranormal investigator from Connecticut, U.S. Army veteran, senior lead with the New England Society for Psychic Research, mentored by Lorraine Warren herself. He'd spent decades exploring the supernatural. He'd appeared in Netflix's 28 Days Haunted and on Most Haunted Places. Rivera had helped transport Annabelle, yes, that Annabelle doll, across the US, lecturing on her dark history while displaying the cursed Raggedy Ann figure. The doll once sliced a victim with psychic scratches, moved on its own, and was locked in a glass box by the Warrens for decades. Rivera took precautions: gloves, ritual prayers, warnings to the public. But on July 13th, 2025, something went terribly wrong in Gettysburg. That night, Rivera stayed at a hotel near the Soldiers National Orphanage. After the final haunted exhibit, he faintly said he felt ill and returned to his room alone. Colleagues discovered him hours later, unresponsive. Emergency responders arrived and attempted CPR, but by the time they broke through the door, it was too late. He was already dead. Authorities quickly ruled the death natural, pending autopsy. The doll wasn't present in the room. There was no sign of foul play or forced entry, nothing unusual, just a silent, lifeless body and unanswered questions. But the timing, the symbolism. A man who handled one of the most notorious haunted objects on Earth succumbing to sudden death while showing it to others. People online lost it. Fan accounts, TikTok theories, Facebook posts. Annabelle took him. The narrative spread like wildfire. Snopes and major outlets dismissed the idea. Logically, it was coincidence. But to believers, whether fatal or not, it added fuel to the legend. On Reddit's r/Ghosts, users debated. One asked, "Is the doll in the room when EMS arrived?" Another speculated the doll had escaped somewhere between states. "How eerily cinematic," someone wrote. "Looks like a horror movie writing itself." Nesper posted their tribute on July 14th, calling Rivera compassionate, loyal, dedicated, and pledging to continue his work as he would have wished. But no amount of reassurance dims the chill. Dan Rivera wasn't just a paranormal host. He was a believer who lived by experience. He grew up witnessing hauntings in his own home, witnessed those events by faith practitioners, trained in Santeria rites, and approached every investigation with seriousness and respect. He had a family, wife Sarah, 4 kids, and he loved sharing knowledge. He engaged millions on TikTok with his authenticity and down-to-earth fearlessness. To believers, his death felt like a grim validation. To skeptics, a tragedy tinged with melodrama. No evidence suggests the doll was involved in the hotel, or that Rivera even contacted it directly before becoming ill. But the horror film parallels are impossible to ignore. Haunted artifact, demon mythology, sudden death in isolation. Rivera died in Gettysburg, not just a historic battlefield, but America's ghost town capital, where supernatural tourism thrives. The tour stopped at the Soldiers' Orphanage homestead, built during the Civil War, claimed to be among the most haunted buildings in the region. Annabelle had been displayed multiple years earlier nearby, but this was its first major public US tour after the closing of the Warren Occult Museum. For many attendees, this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to see the infamous doll and meet the man who helped present it. Rivera warned participants about psychic scratches and spiritual attachments. He ended lectures reminding people, "Close your eyes. Imagine a halo of white light around you," a technique he inherited from Lorraine Warren herself. That makes his final moments feel like a fractal echo of ghost hunting folklore. A line whispered between believer and skeptic. Is the only thing he missed that there might be nothing between him and the doll? Nesper confirmed the tour will go on without Rivera. "We believe with all our hearts that Dan would have wanted it continued," they wrote on Facebook. The statement pledged to honor his memory while educating others. Just as he did, Annabelle was removed from room display during the investigation. Housed in special crates, tour staff increased safety protocols. No direct contact, no handling without gloves, more prayer rituals before presentations. Media coverage framed the event as tragic but rational. Fan theories served as spooky clickbait. Investigative publishers reiterated no link and reminded readers that Rivera didn't die because of Annabelle. The doll just shares the spotlight. But social media remembers differently. Investigator dies alone in a hotel room. The object haunted by legend not present at the scene. Ghost town as backdrop. A mystery left open in the autopsy. Online speculation calls it cursed. Revival of past victims. Sound like a script from the Conjuring sequels. Maybe more disturbing, how the script wrote itself. And the theories are: Annabelle has a history. Motor accidents, psychic attacks, livestock deaths. Some say Rivera had seen something, maybe communicated with something, and invited a backlash. He was touring non-stop. Fever, fatigue. He checked into his room on the final night, said he felt sick, could be a heart event or undiagnosed condition. The coroner did list the death as natural so far. Even without physical contact, believers wonder, did the doll's aura reach him? Some attend rituals around cursed objects. Maybe his proximity was enough. On Reddit, someone speculated he must have touched the doll earlier. Another in r/ghosts wrote, "When you flirt with evil, don't be surprised when it flirts back." These memes and threads keep the horror alive. Rivera's family, his wife, 4 children. The Nespar peers call him a teacher, a friend, a believer. They remember his kindness and passion. They remember that he wanted to help people understand the paranormal, not profit off fear. Yet every time someone mentions Annabelle online, Rivera's name surfaces. Social media cults chant, "Who died next to the doll? Dan Rivera." Historians note that the Warrens themselves claimed Annabelle caused car accidents and a motorcyclist's death, but none of those are proven. That doesn't seem to matter to the faithful. The legend grows, and the doll, it's gone missing from the tour photos for days. Some say it was quietly removed. Others joke, Annabelle took a break. To believers, it's another layer of the myth. To skeptics, just logistical obscurity. Dan Rivera didn't die because of Annabelle. Or maybe he did. His name is now inked into the same ledger as every other curious investigator who ever poked at legend. Gettysburg's ghost just found a new resident. Not in a grave, but in memory. The absence of explanation invites speculation. The paranormal community is mourning. The skeptic community is shaking its head. And the rest of us? We're left wondering whether some stories shouldn't be told, or at least not so near to reality. Whatever the truth, this story reminds us that sometimes When you carry darkness for others to see, it doesn't always stay outside. Story 2. Florida exorcism turns deadly. It was a routine welfare check, prompted by a school's scramble to find a missing child. Ramil Pierre, age 6, hadn't shown up at Samuel Gaines Academy since May 14th. Concern grew. No notes, no messages, no calls from home. Finally, a school resource officer sent deputies knocking. Shortly before 10 a.m. on May 30th, law enforcement in Fort Pierce rolled into a quiet street on Bedford Drive. There, Rhonda Joyce Paulinese, 41, answered the door. She had no tears in her eyes, no panic, just sunglasses, lip gloss, and a presence too composed for what came next. She spoke calmly, one deputy recounted. One moment laughing, the next crying. Paulinese quietly guided deputies inside, straight to a bedroom. There lay Ramil, lying in bed, his face the only thing visible through the blankets. Decomposition had set in. No body found in a bathtub or closet. No sign of foul play, but sheer horror writ large in his stillness. Police pressed. Why hadn't she called for help? Why hadn't she notified the school? Rhonda said nothing, but the affidavit did. The last time she spoke to him was May 18th, widely believed to also be the day of his death. That makes 12 days since school, 12 days since the world realized he was gone. Sheriff Richard Del Toro addressed the media. She believed God told her to exorcise demons out of her son's body. She thought Ramil had refused the spirit, so she released him, assuming death meant freedom. She waited for signs, waiting for him to come back. Family called Ramil Papi. Classmates said he lit up the room. Teachers remembered his laughter. Now his bed held silence. Neighbors said Rhonda had become increasingly withdrawn since mid-May. She posted bizarre Bible verses online, lines about spiritual warfare and deliverance. She stopped answering calls. She refused to send him to school. One day, deputies had already visited for a medical issue involving Rhonda, but no child was mentioned. Then, weeks later, no announcement, just a welfare check, just death. In court, bail was denied. She's facing second-degree murder, failure to report death, tampering with a corpse. Bond set at $150,000. The home was empty. Only mother and child lived there. So nobody else even noticed. Public anxiety grew. Mental health advocates warned of catastrophic ideology. Faith-based pleas echoed in headlines. Was this divine mission or psychosis dressed in scripture? Court documents paint a chilling image. Rhonda believed she heard God speaking in dreams, detailed instructions about demon residence and deliverance. She said Ramil fought back. She suffocated him until he stopped. Then she wrapped him in his favorite blanket. She checked on him daily. No one will come for me, she claimed. Vision, calling, result. Even after deputies discovered the body, she didn't panic. She applied lip gloss while being questioned. She refused to take off her sunglasses at times. One detective described her emotion as surreal. One moment, the image of detachment. Next, a parent crying. Was it camera anxiety or slippers of denial after tragedy? Residents placed teddy bears, candles, and handwritten notes outside the house. A sign even read, "Why did you leave?" One neighbor told reporters, "I saw balloons yesterday." Now nothing. This shouldn't happen to a child. School officials quickly set up grief counselors. Teachers walked hallways holding tissues. Students whispered while addressing whiteboards and guardians. Many said they still pray for Ramil, not understanding how a mother or any adult could do this. Family members refused most interviews. but through tears, they insisted he was joyful. The family started a GoFundMe to pay for funeral expenses. They named him Poppy, planning a service centered on memory and not accusation. Investigators launched full autopsy, but after 12 days unattended, decomposition limited clarity. The medical examiner couldn't determine cause or time precisely on site. Toxicology reports and microscopic tests would take weeks. What shocked detectives? There was no sign of physical trauma. No water damage, no blunt force marks, no drugs found on scene, no sign someone else had attacked him. The only conclusion? Air left his lungs, spirit left his body. That's all Rhonda said, and more terrifyingly, apparently believed. Theories that echo our experts suggest this was delusion rooted in psychosis, religious hallucinations warping reality. The mother allegedly believed Rummel was possessed. That blindness led to ritual suffocation. Clinical DSM-5 defines such behavior within delusional disorder. Rather than bury or report the body, Rhonda preserved it as if Rummel would return. That suggests not denial, but expectation. A literal resurrection ritual. The horror: she didn't hide from police. She assumed authority would understand. Between May 14th and 30th, no adult intervened. A mother stopped sending her son to school. Neighbors observed mood swings. Deputies even visited once, but no child incident recorded. That's a breakdown in awareness. Rare in the US, but deadly here. Sheriff Del Toro called the case some evil beyond belief. He said he couldn't brand it occult, but in his tone, horror rang through. The department noted Rhonda exhibited swings, laughter one moment, tears the next. It happened in the driveway, the hallway, the crime scene. Deputies later described the house as eerily immaculate, everything in place, as though normal life had never paused. Local 10 News obtained body cam footage. A deputy confronted her outside. "Your son hasn't been to school in 2 weeks?" She said, "I haven't sent him yet. He's going back." Inside, she agreed to show them the room. No panic, just deliberate obedience. The camera blinked. A woman wearing sunglasses indoors guiding a tragedy into law enforcement's view. ABC reports also described prior calls at the home, but none involving child wellness, just domestic disputes. Another call occurred on May 17th involving Rhonda's health. No other visitors lived there. Deputies repeatedly said, he had to have been alone. This is no ghost story, no haunted house, no tape recorder playing voices. The monster here lived in a human belief. A mother who thought devotion meant destruction. A boy who lit up rooms but laid silent in one. The deeper horror? Everyone assumed someone else would act. School assumed someone called home. Neighbors assumed child welfare checks happened. Even after Rhonda posted odd messages, nobody reported. The community, trusting the system, trusting a mother, let a child vanish. If you drive past that house now, you'll see memorials replaced. Balloon strings fraying, scrawled notes fading. But inside grief lives infinite cycles. Classmates wrote his name on chalkboards. Families lit candles after dark. Teachers closed classes in silent prayer. Local churches hosted healing gatherings, but the emptiness remained. Funeral sermons remembered him as kind, curious, beautiful. An aunt. Every day I feel his absence more. Family vows to place photos and toys in a shrine. But closure? Not yet. The trial hasn't started. The autopsy is pending. Answers remain incomplete. It's not a movie. No monster costume. No jump scare. Just belief. Misplaced, yes, but real. And real enough to kill. Her charges stand. second-degree murder because intent doesn't need violence, only the act, failure to report death, altering a body. Each charge stands for every day he wasn't discovered. Every day she believed he'd return, but no return came. To horror fans, this is real terror. Trust, belief, love turned fatal. It raises questions. How far can faith be twisted before it bites? How many warnings go unheard before tragedy finds us? Story 3, Mystery Death in Paradise. It was supposed to be a dream vacation. White sand beaches, turquoise waters, and sun-drenched afternoons in Grace Bay, Turks and Caicos. For 51-year-old Brian Tarrance, this getaway was meant to be a break from life's pressures. Instead, it ended in chilling mystery. On June 25th, 2025, at 3:30 a.m., security cameras captured Brian walking away from his hotel. He wasn't stumbling or panicked. He looked calm, maybe even at peace. But after that moment, he vanished completely. 5 days later, his body was found in a brushy area near a road ominously named Miracle Close. No signs of trauma, no obvious foul play, and no clear answers. Brian Tarrance was a financial consultant from Atlanta, Georgia, known for being level-headed and family-oriented. He was staying at a luxury resort in Grace Bay, an area that's usually filled with tourists and constant activity. The night before his disappearance, he had dinner alone at the resort restaurant, chatted briefly with a bartender, and returned to his room around midnight. 3 hours later, he left. No one knows why. The security footage shows him wearing light clothing, no bag, and no phone in hand. He didn't take his room key. He wasn't dressed for a jog or swim. It was as if something called him out into the night. Authorities immediately reviewed the footage. There were no signs of anyone following him. No suspicious vehicles. No altercation. In fact, he walked out of the resort's front entrance and vanished into the shadows beyond the camera's reach. Grace Bay isn't the kind of place where people go missing. It's well lit, always active, and full of cameras and resorts. Yet Brian was gone. On June 30th, 5 days after Brian's disappearance, local authorities found his body in a wooded area just off a side road called Miracle Close, barely a 15-minute walk from the hotel. What's strange is that search teams had passed that road before, but hadn't noticed anything. The body was intact. No injuries, no defensive wounds. His wallet and ID were on him. There were no signs of struggle. The autopsy has yet to determine a cause of death, but initial toxicology came back clean. No alcohol, no drugs. Local police ruled out foul play almost immediately. But online, people weren't so sure. On Reddit and TikTok, users began spinning theories. Some speculated he suffered a sudden cardiac event. Others suggested he may have been sleepwalking, driven by medication or stress. But the most chilling theories questioned whether Brian had experienced something paranormal. Grace Bay isn't known for hauntings, but nearby islands like East Caicos are steeped in folklore about spirits, curses, and unexplained phenomena. One TikTok video that went viral included local legends of spirits that lure people into the wild, never to return. Comments exploded with references to Caribbean folklore like the Sukuyan, a shape-shifting, blood-sucking creature from Trinidadian and Haitian mythology. While many dismissed those ideas as fantasy, the symbolism of Miracle Close, the road where his body was found, only added to the creepy aura. Was it a cruel coincidence or something more? Why would a man, sober and calm, walk straight into dense brush at 3:30 a.m. and never come back? Brian was described by friends and colleagues as analytical and cautious. He had worked for over 2 decades in financial planning and was divorced, with a teenage daughter. He didn't drink heavily, didn't take drugs, and was generally considered rational and grounded. He had been to the Caribbean several times before, but had never visited Turks and Caicos. According to his sister, he had been dealing with work stress and booked this trip alone to clear his head. His therapist later confirmed Brian had recently talked about feeling overwhelmed, but hadn't shown signs of self-harm or depression. If anything, he was looking forward to the vacation. Private investigator Carl Novas, hired by Brian's family, pointed out that the brush was thick but not impenetrable. He believes it's possible the body was concealed, either by accident or intentionally. "This isn't some remote jungle," Novas said. "It's right off a paved road, with houses and tourists nearby. For someone to die there and not be found for days is beyond unusual. Authorities insist it's not a criminal case, but Novas isn't so sure." As of mid-July, the full autopsy has not been released. Preliminary findings showed no trauma, no internal bleeding, no broken bones. His time of death is estimated to be within 12 hours of his disappearance, meaning he likely died on June 25th, sometime between 3:30 a.m. and noon. But of what? Some have proposed a theory involving sudden adult death syndrome, SADS, a rare, unexplained cardiac arrest in adults with no history of heart issues. However, those cases are typically in people under 40 and extremely rare. Others have mentioned dehydration, heat stroke, or venomous bites, but local doctors have said those would leave clear signs, and there were none. Several online sleuths uncovered a string of strange events tied to Turks and Caicos in recent years. Drownings with no water in lungs, a honeymooner disappearing without a trace, and now Brian. While none of these are officially connected, true crime fans see a pattern. "People want to believe that paradise is safe," said online commentator Tara Junes. "But sometimes the most beautiful places hide the darkest secrets." On TikTok, #BrianTerrence has over 2 million views. Videos explore everything from satellite images to astrology charts. Some claim the area has magnetic anomalies. Others have pointed out that June 25th was a full moon. Of course, none of this is proof, but it fuels the idea that something sinister, natural or not, happened that night. One of the most chilling aspects of the case is the absence of any goodbye. Brian didn't leave a note, didn't send a message. His phone was found in his hotel room, still charging. What made him walk away from safety? Was it a moment of confusion? Was he following something or someone? Was he already in some kind of distress? Or did he go willingly, believing he was safe? Some point to the paranormal, others to human error. But in the end, we still don't know what pulled him from his bed and led him to miracle close. The brush has been cleared. The police have closed the case, but the mystery lingers like the humid island air. And for many, the idea that a man can simply vanish and die in paradise, surrounded by people, cameras, and sunlight, feels more like a ghost story than reality. The line between real life and horror has never felt thinner. 3 deaths, 3 mysteries, a cursed doll, a deadly exorcism, a man who vanished in paradise. Different stories, but all touched by something dark. Dan Rivera might have opened the wrong door. Ramil Pierre never stood a chance. And Brian Terrence, he walked into the night and never came back. Coincidence, fate, or something far more sinister? Whatever you believe, just remember, not all horror stories are made up. Some are real, some are watching, and some are coming for you next. Which of these chilling stories haunted you the most? Drop a comment, hit like, And don't forget to subscribe to Charlie Ghostlight for more real nightmares you'll never forget.